Welcome to my journey with Paula G, where we juggle this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us. Thank you all so much for joining us right here on my journey with Paula G. If this is your first time, we welcome you and we appreciate you. You know, time is precious. It is the one thing that you cannot get back. So for you to think it not robbery to spend just a little bit of your time with us is truly appreciated. So we thank you so very, very much. And we also like to thank our underwriters for my journey with Paula G. Without you, this would not be possible. And we thank you because because of you, it is the reason that we are able to provide quality programming that inspires, that encourages, and can transform lives as well. All right, well, it is time for our jewel on the journey. And if you're just joining us for the first time, you might say, what is a jewel on the journey? A jewel on the journey are those individuals who have been with us through our live remotes or our live tapings, who have attended those events and have encouraged us and supported us. And what I began to do with those individuals is I would give them an index card like this. And I would ask them to write their favorite quote, their favorite scripture, word of encouragement, something of that nature to help me stay connected with them and also to encourage you as well, because we all have pearls of wisdom. We all have this journey called life, and we all gain these pearls of wisdom. So those are my jewels on the journey. And today's jewel comes from Mr. Curtis Banks, and he references Mother Edith Hines. And if those of you who have been with us for a while, Mother Hines, we think she's the oldest living Gold Star mom. And he basically writes, he's learned from her, basically, those that we love in our lives, we have to give them their flowers while they're still living and show them just how much we appreciate them while we're still living. So if there's someone in your life that you love and you appreciate, let them know today that you love them and that you appreciate them. All right, well, we are ready for our guest today, and this gentleman today is just phenomenal, and he comes to us today as the CEO and the founder of Brothers Empowered to Teach. I love that title. That's a strong title.
It
Brothers
is.
Empowered to Teach, BE2T. He was a former high school football coach and teacher. And those of you who have followed me, you know, I was a high school counselor for 15 or 16 years. So I love my coaches because, you know, they were my backup. And he's done so many other things, and he's going to share with us a bit of his journey as well today. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry Irvin, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking me, Miss Paula G. Pleasure to be here. It's an honor. Ready to have this conversation.
Yes, yes. Well, you know, I I'm always excited when I have a brother on that has a mission and is on a journey and has purpose. Tell us a bit before we get into BE2T. Tell us a bit about the man and his journey, the man behind BE2T and his journey.
Yeah, that's like we were talking earlier. Offline. That's a very colorful story. I'll try to wrap it in by painting this picture. You know, and dichotomizing sort of
Yeah.
the identity crisis that I think a lot of young black men, speaking from a New Orleans lens, but a lot of black men across the country deal with. And that's identity crisis.
Mm,
I'm the son of a lifelong educator, early childhood educator. My mom, Marilyn
mm,
Denise Irvin, God bless her soul. She passed in 2010, but she was a
mm,
educator herself
mhm.
for 25 plus years for the Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish,
Yeah.
school districts. So, I saw education early on. It
Hmm.
was 24/7. She was your quintessential teacher's teacher.
Hmm.
She was just as involved in the community and a giver and altruistic, just how she showed up in classrooms, and she never really cut that light off,
Hmm.
if you will. So I had spelling bees against my older
Hmm.
siblings at the house, pop quizzes, the whole nine. So she made sure I had a really strong academic foundation.
Yeah.
But she also worked a lot on the flip side, on the other
Hmm.
side of that spectrum. So a lot of times she came home from school, she took a shower, washed up, and she was right back at the door,
Hmm.
going to other budget rent a car to work a second or third job.
Yeah.
And that meant me going outside and finding masculinity and finding manhood for myself.
Hmm.
And that journey, and some indecision, some wrong decisions, like a lot of black men. Because we're affirmed a lot of times when we go outside. We sort of see ourselves because we're outside, right? So and if you compound sort of that image that you see of black men in these inner city neighborhoods with the projections and the portrayals and depictions of black men with the very limited depictions of black men in popular media, it's a very limited scope of what we can show up to be. So if it's not rapping, it's not basketball, it's not sports, or the streets, our consciousness and our scope of possibilities doesn't really stretch outside of that. So a lot of us get caught up in that cycle of those three. I happen to do all three, and that's my story. I definitely have a street element to my narrative. I've been to jail. I fought gun charges, narcotic charges, things of that nature. But I've also graduated from LSU Dean's List journalism student. Received my associates in print broadcast journalism. Have been published. It's just that balance of experiences, if you will, I think has uniquely positioned me to tell this story and push this work. But in a nutshell, that's sort of been my story. Just on one end, a very positive foundation set by a black woman, my mother, and then on the other end, me finding myself in the streets of New Orleans.
Right. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's so important for, our men to hear that journey, especially our young men, because you've come full circle. And the thing that you mentioned a couple of times was that foundation.
Yeah.
You had that foundation that you may have strayed for a minute, but you came back to that foundation. And we often speak about the importance of one's foundation, especially with our men. What ground that a man stands on, his foundation, and correct me if I'm wrong, really can determine the trajectory of his life and the ultimate place of where he winds up, and to have a mom that was an educator. And I know she didn't play, because I grew up with educators. And did you ever have that experience where you running in and you're trying to tell her something and you're excited about it, and she keeps correcting your English, and by the time she finishes correcting your English, you forgot what it was that you came in?
All the time. All the time. She was a stickler, I don't think it's an accident that, my passion and my journey as far as academically has been around journalism and communications and language. And that was it. It came from experiences like that.
It came from those experiences. I don't know how many times I got popped for saying ain't, but I digress.
Right.
I'll come back.
I'm not gonna share with you, when I use slangs and colloquialisms early on, which I still do very, very, very frequently now.
Right.
In a non-professional sense, but how she would correct me and when she would label it, that ism. She was like, you ain't be coming here, son. You ain't be here coming here talking like that with all that.
That's right.
You get outside. You all that
That's
outside.
right. That was back in the day. We had to go out there and get your own switch. and don't come back with this little thing, because then she's gonna go out there and get two more and braid them together and tear you up.
It's gonna make it worse. Trust me.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So you've had, and again, thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. You've had this full circle moment, and those, like you said, balance of experiences that have brought you to where you are today. Tell us about Brothers Empowered to Teach.
Yeah. So it's a very serendipitous story. It's a very sort of was meant to happen. Actually, I met my co-founder Christina Jones in Mardi Gras of 2011 here in New Orleans, and we became really good friends. And I was just sharing her as we were learning each other. She had came from New York. Her background is community development. So she had a dearth of knowledge in regard to economic development, community development. So she was, the conversation around gentrification was really ramping up post Katrina, right?
Yes.
And with the effects and ramifications of Hurricane Katrina from an economic standpoint and a development standpoint, what would the rebuild look like? And that was her lane. And when we met, those conversations, there was just really fiery conversations, because she brought what I call a very East Coast lens, a very carpetbagger lens to the work. So that led to some very, very passionate me being a Southern boy
Uh-huh.
and being born and raised from New Orleans, and her taking that narrative from just a from a media standpoint, right, and not
Uh-huh.
hearing it like what's going on from a ground standpoint, and how the natives are being left out of those seats at the table for those real conversations as far as the
Uh-huh.
redevelopment. And a lot of those conversations just led to me telling her about my story and
Mm,
friends that I've lost, and funerals I've been in, and
mm,
being a pallbearer for a lot of a lot of my friends and cousins and things of that nature. Just my
mhm,
experience as a black male dealing with the ubiquitous nature of the drug game in New
mhm,
Orleans, and just how I've telling you the same thing. I was
mhm,
telling her the same thing I was telling you, as far as
mhm,
just this balance of experience for me. And she was just like that. She thought that story was so powerful, and
mhm,
she introduced me to somebody, one of her friends, who then introduced me to this group that was doing fellowships called Echo and Green in New York. One thing led to another. I told a couple more people my story.
mhm,
People felt like it needed to be heard, and then one thing led to another, and we figured, what better way can we sort of change this narrative around sort of what we call the big three,
yeah,
what I alluded to earlier, as far as sports,
mhm,
black men thinking and dreaming outside of sports, entertainment, and the
mhm,
streets. And we figured what better way could we do that and change that narrative, but to put black males in the classroom to give a new representation of what
mhm.
success can mean. And my story fit the bill perfectly.
Yeah, and I think it is so, and I know you do, but and that's why I feel it's so important that for people to hear a bit of your story, so
Right.
they can because like you said, that whole balance. I keep going to that back to that balance.
Yeah.
When God places these things inside of us, and when He places us on the path that He places us on, He's preparing us for that journey, because then you get to a place where I used to always say when I was in the school system that I would have to meet my students where they were. So for some, you meet them in one place, and for others, you might have to use some other circumstances to meet to so
Other
they can,
mediums. Let's call
yes,
it that.
there you go, so they can understand where you're coming from. you know,
Absolutely.
you know what I'm
Absolutely. It
referring,
can be
right?
cultural at times too, because it can
Yeah,
be cultural. It
exactly.
can be
It could,
cultural at times. So you gotta speak a
yes.
certain language. Absolutely.
Yes, it could be called, it's funny you mentioned that. I can remember one time there was, a group of students in the cafeteria of a certain ethnicity. And I was in there, I was talking to someone else, and, they got a little loud. And so some of the administrators started moving toward them. So I went in, I intervened. I said, it's okay. It's okay. I said, it's a cultural thing. They just loud. They
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
loud,
Nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be
Yeah,
afraid of.
exactly. Nothing to be afraid of. They're just loud. And it's so interesting because the kids on the other side of me looking like, what's the problem? What's wrong? What do we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it speaks to your point. So when we have those experiences ourselves,
Yeah.
sometimes we are the one, when I say we, I mean collectively, that are
Right.
standing between a positive or a negative, outcome of a particular situation. So yes, it really is important for you to definitely share your journey. So with the current season that we are in, it's like none that we have seen before. You all have had, yes, indeed. That's a whole nother show, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I
Like,
mean, it's so pertinent to what we're doing, the work we're doing, and everything. It just
yeah,
kind of speaks to how much this conversation as a whole really is needed, as
it's
far as
important.
black men as a whole. But I'm sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. You're fine. So you're making that trend. You're having to make some changes
Yes.
in what you do, and some of those changes involve transitioning to an
Right.
online format, a virtual format. So share with us what that looks like.
Yes, ma'am. So, prior to COVID,
Hmm.
our program and our fellowship, just real quick on our fellowship, it's a undergraduate 3-year fellowship,
Hmm.
pre-teaching fellowship. The criteria is basic. You have to be a black man, obviously, have a 2.5, and you don't have to be an education major.
Hmm.
And our programming was basically, we're training, giving them the pedagogy, giving them the curricula, and the exposure, working with kids K-12 while they're in school and getting paid for that. But we're giving them the training on one end, but they're also going into K-12 schools,
Hmm.
balancing that with their classes and all of that while they're in undergrad. So they're basically getting 3 years of teacher training prior to actually graduating. And once they graduate, sort of that first year teacher transition is a little bit more
Hmm.
seamless. With
Hmm.
COVID now being at K-12 and the implementation of that, looks different for everybody in a completely chartered space. So everybody's independent. Everybody's making their own decisions as far as what school is going to look like. So we decided to just virtually transition all of our workshops, all of our training, all of our programming, all of our development online temporarily. It's just going to be an expansion of our program, and we're still going to go back and enter K-12 schools, so those our fellows can get the on-the-ground experience. But as an expansion of our work, we'll be able to deliver it virtually until the pandemic is completely over, because we don't want to be liable, and we don't want to put our young folks who are trying to paint a certain picture as far as having a career and things of that nature, and we want to set a tone. We want to set a certain tone for them. We don't want them to just get caught up in such indecision, and there not being a collective decision as far as what school looks like in K-12. So we just want to wait till everybody's back on the same page, and we're going to be working virtually. We're building out a virtual class. We're going to be working online. We have a lot of things planned for this year and dealing with the pandemic, but we'll be going back to our full programming on the ground once everything clears up, and we hoping that's fall of next year.
Yes, yes. And I mean, that is a power-packed program, of which, you know, the benefits are great for those who participate. So, you know, when you were talking about the requirements a little bit, and I think I heard you correctly, you said you have to be a Black man.
You have to be a Black man.
Why is that important? Because somebody, you know, with the times that we're in, somebody might get stuck on that. So explain why that is so.
Because I think, you know, a lot of times what happens with the rhetoric, or what we see happening, right, globally, I think with the rhetoric, you know, the Black male experience gets swept under one umbrella, if you will, in regards to the language around people of color, men of color. And sometimes I think just the need and the need for the concerted effort to focus on this demographic can somewhat be diluted by sweeping everybody else's experience into the Black male experience, if you will. So, and that's not to discredit or discount the Latinx experience, the Native African experience, any other male that's non-African, you know, if we want to label them non-Black, non-African American. That's not to discredit their experiences, but there's a concerted effort that's needed. There's a special attention that's needed. We feel, to our brothers, and we just want to be explicit and loud and bold about that. And so we're making sure we say you have to be a Black male, because we see a lot of different initiatives and funding initiatives and things of that nature that get started. Once it's kind of risque when you use that people of color language, because things become a little bit ambiguous and vague. And then we see other people becoming benefactors of the program, which it was initially intended for.
Right. And you know, it speaks to what you said earlier about, you know, the importance of changing the narrative, because there is a certain narrative out there, and it speaks to the importance of changing the narrative, and also speaking to the importance of, you know, your experience. You know, I've had a similar situation where, you know, I've maybe referred to something, and, you know, from a woman's perspective, and maybe a gentleman might have said something, you know, well, what about the men? And, you know, I would respectfully say, I cannot speak to the man's journey. I have never been a man, don't know how to be a man, so I can't speak to that journey. I can only speak to mine and how I, based from my lens, how I can assist and help other, you know, women. So I'm glad that you shared that, and that you explained that as well. How can the audience reach out and connect and find out more information?
Absolutely. You can find us on our website, first and foremost, www.be2t.org. That's so that's a lowercase b, lowercase e, the number 2, lowercase t.org. Our social media, you can find us on Instagram at Real Bros Teach. That's BRUHS, Real Bros Teach. You can find us on Twitter, hashtag Real Bros Teach. And our website as well. So we are definitely ramping up our social media efforts right now. You can also find us at the To Ed with Love podcast. We also, me and my co-founder Christina Jones. Big shout out to Christina iPad Jones. If she may see this, I got to make sure I shout out if she's probably going to see this. So we do me and her do a podcast, a monthly podcast called To Ed with Love. To Ed is short for To Education. With Love, and it's a community platform where we're talking about. We're really just trying to simplify the very sophisticated vernacular around the charter system and really dumb it down for common folks to understand, so they can have the best best case scenario when it comes down to charter choice and where they're sending his kids for school. So to Ed with Love podcast as well on Instagram. You can find all of our podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Tidal,
Okay.
all platforms.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. My guest today, Mr. Larry Irvin. Just a lot of information, and just he's on a mission and he's on a journey of
Absolutely.
empowering and just helping our Black men on this journey we call life. So we thank you all so much for joining us today. We thank our underwriters for being a part of my journey with Paula G. And remember, the greatest conversation you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself? Is God a part of that conversation? And are you listening to his still small voice? We love you. God bless you. Until next time, embrace the journey.
Thank you all.
Some people hate me, but it don't hurt, so no, don't even faze me. I'm created to be up in some no, you can't replace me. Mama that made me a king to protect all of my queen. Life is worth saving, royalty is in me and all of my genes. I'm amazing, oh, I'm amazing. No, you can face me, I'm amazing to protect all of our queen. I'm amazing, oh, I'm a king. I went from a prince to a king because my daddy is king, your daddy was king. Fruits don't fall from a tree, the devil can shatter my dreams. I know what tragedy brings, I know what matters to me, my family first. That's why I'm planting my seeds, raise them be better than me. I'm breaking that curse, now that I'm free, no longer in bondage. I'm paying homage to the ones who before me, who went up in glory, my spirit is shining. I'm changing my climate, I'm praying to God, I worship the finest. I'm walking the streets to go, I cover the diamonds, being so modest. I gotta be honest, I gotta stay positive. Got my son with me, gotta stay humble, I'm ready to rumble with life till God come get me. Free of the mind is, freedom is mine, look. Having fun with it, dropping them jewels, so mentally climb, look. Better run with it. I'm amazing, oh, I'm amazing. No, you can face me, I'm amazing to protect all of our queen. I'm amazing, oh, I'm a king. I'm amazing, oh, I'm amazing. No, you can face me, I'm amazing to protect all of our queen. I'm amazing, oh, I'm a king.
Baby, look outside, hear the chirping for the birds. Sun's out, guns out, coming through with my best verse. Feeling so amazing, I'ma say it till my chest hurt. Driving with my windows down, then I make that left turn. Some people say you can do what you wanna do. My daddy says you can be what you wanna be. I'm DB, everyone wishing they be like me. I'm blessed, I'm free, that's the recipe. Life sesame, still bother to be a pleasant me. They let it be, but I see what's the best for me. Remedy, still healing for the ages 3. Got my treasure and I found the key, boy. Tell her later I made her feel underrated though. Take my shot like that fed and I never waited, no. I'm ahead of the flater, but that's the way to go. How my bills are the paid, don't wanna miss a loan. Feeling so amazing and I'm feeling so incredible. My daddy did his time and now he's free from all the federals. Now I'm gonna mention something very hypothetical. Feeling leadership within me, feeling so perpetual. Cherish all your memories, it's inevitable. I wanna be an inspiration, very unforgettable. My family taught me how to be wise and respectable. Open up the gates and now my options are accessible.
I'm amazing, oh, I'm amazing. No, you can face me, I'm amazing to protect all of our queen. I'm amazing, oh, I'm a king. I'm amazing, oh, I'm amazing. No, you can face me, I'm amazing to protect all of our queen. I'm amazing, oh, I'm a king.
You weren't sorry when you said it on the phone. Listen, there was
No,
people screaming
but
at home.
at the end of the day, and the climate that we live in today's society,
I was sorry.
I understand it, but it's above me now.
On a daily, people try me. It's getting harder and harder to turn the other cheek. You say give mercy and grace and to be more like you, but it's easier to say than do. To push every button that they know to push. It shouldn't be this hard to keep choosing good. Why do the best type of people have to take the most crap? But I rise above foolishness, I rise above talking slick, I rise above ignorance, and it's all above me now. Above me now. It's above me now. It's all above me now. Above me now. Who can imagine the difference it will make if people minded their business, the business that kept them paid? My skin ain't a reason to try to play me. At the end of the day, you ain't no better than me. Racists and liars and thieves are all the same. Just praying my choice to choose good and in vain. And in vain. But I rise above foolishness, I rise above talking slick, I rise above ignorance, and it's all above me now. Above me now. It's all above me now. Above me now. Every day you're trying to be more like you, but my tests seem like they're getting harder to get through. You say you won't give me more than I can bear, but sometimes in life it just seems so unfair. So unfair.